Evolution is the change in characteristics of a species over several generations and relies on process of natural selection. For example, in pre-industrial revolution in England, there was a 98% population of white moths, and there was about a 2% population of black moths. The black moths had developed a mutation that caused the color to become black, and there were only a 2% because during this time, the trees in England, the color of the trees in England were all white, which made black moths less adapted to the environment and caused white moths to be more adapted to the environment, produce and to survive, and a higher chance of producing offspring. And for the black moths, they were mostly eaten by predators, especially birds. But in post-industrial revolution in England, there was a major change to the moth population. There was an increase in black moth population due to the fact that after industrial revolution, the factories, the pollution, and the smoke caused the change of the color of the trees to become black. And this made white moths less adapted to the environment now and caused a decrease in their population. This process is also known as natural selection, where organisms adapted to the environment and tend to survive and produce more offspring. The evolution theory was first proposed by a British naturalist named Charles Darwin. In the year of 1831, while studying at the University of Cambridge, he was offered to board the HMS Beagle to visit different parts of different continents. So he took this opportunity to collect numerous of animals and fossils, and this is where he began to theorize his theory of evolution. But when he stumbled against the Galapagos Islands off the coast of Ecuador, he noticed a species of finches had different characteristics, and he noticed that certain finches had larger beaks and certain finches had smaller beaks. He proposed that a species had different characteristics to help them survive and adapt in their environment. So, for example, finches who had larger beaks tend to use that beak to open nuts or fruit, and finches who had smaller beaks tend to use that to eat insects in very small places and very tight places. He also proposed that all species have a common ancestor, and he used this theory on humans as well. 20 years after Darwin's famous expedition, he used all his research, experiments, discoveries, and theories into one famous scientific influential book of all time on the origin of species. When the book came out in 1859, religious ministers were outraged and argued against his ideas because Darwin proposed that there was no interference of God in the making of species. And this outrage also outraged certain religious people, and newspapers began making fun of Charles Darwin by putting his face onto a chimpanzee's body, which is pretty messed up. Believe it or not, Charles Darwin is one of the most famous English naturalists of all time. With his contributions to the science of evolution, his developments in scientific and humanist ideas just made people wonder their place in the evolutionary process. And 150 years later, after he proposed his theory of evolution, it's shown and proven that his theory is correct. And as we speak, evolution is taking place right now. Different species are changing, the world is changing, and humans too.